Hello group. I thought I needed to make another video, kind of like a part 2 to yesterday's video where I talked about balancing the love between all my children, because it seems to me like my video focused more on what I did for my children and the things I've bought them over the years. And to be honest with you, we cannot replace time with our children with tangible things or things we spend on them. You know, it has to be a balance. And what I do for my children financially is not the summary of who I am as a parent and the sacrifices that I've had to make for each and every one over the years. They all required a different type of love, a different type of attention, a different type of nurturing. Oh my gosh, like with my sons, my oldest one, after my first divorce, he needed a lot of support because it affected him a lot. And he struggled in school, but he wasn't hyper. He wasn't bad. I didn't have to spend a whole lot of time within the school system. Teachers were very patient with him to help him, you know, along. And then with my second son, my 16-year-old, he struggled with ADHD, but it was on a scale of unbelief. Like, he brought a lot of negative attention on himself. He went through bullying. He had very horrible, very, very poor social skills. So academically, I wasn't involved until he was probably 14-ish. You know, so this is a year and a half ago. He's 16 now, where I didn't have to take an extreme hands-on approach. When we lived in Alabama during his early years, I would have to actually go to the school. They allowed me to sit in the classroom except for tests. And Siri was the type, if I read things to him, he was so smart. He could get the answer, but if he had to read it on his own and process it, it was a struggle for him. And he was very, very, oh my gosh, that boy was off the chain. I couldn't let him spend a night anywhere. I had to keep him close to me. Siri was that child. If anybody got hurt playing football, it was him. Bloody noses, I go outside ready to snap, irritated, and come to find out he wasn't paying attention and might have tripped and fell. You know, he was one that hurt himself a lot. Siri used to get chased home off the school bus. And it would happen so often that he would come home laughing, you know, running from other kids and laughing like it was okay. Like it was horrible. It got to the point where me and Jacoby, my oldest, actually had to walk and get him off the dang on school bus, which was right up the street. And one time, when me and Jacoby walked to get Jasiri before his bus came, there was a shootout with a police officer and another individual, and I had to actually jump on Jacoby, and it was so terrifying because we were probably 15 feet away from the shooting. I jumped on my son, scratched my knees. Jacoby's like, "Get up, mama, come on, let's run," because I'm in shock somewhat. And we started running, and the shots fired again, and I jumped back on him. But moving forward, Jasiri used to get chased home from school. And then when we moved to, and I ended up putting both of my sons in private school to see if that might spark something, because it was a predominantly black Christian private school. And I thought that might push Jacoby over the threshold from the C range. And Jasiri, I thought, and Jasiri was so, I hate to use the word bad, but he was so bad, because I can say that about my own, that they would send him to his brother's classroom. You know what I mean? It was horrible. And moving forward, back when we moved to Youngstown, it was still bad. You know what I mean? It was one kid that slammed my son off the school bus. But Siri, when he was young, he would do things like in people's ear, blow his breath in people. So he would do things. It don't justify, but, you know, as parents, we do have to look at the part our children play. And I eventually had to help Siri to take responsibility for his quote-unquote, I'm going to just use the words, ADHD, but for his behaviors, because he would act up, ramble, and talk, and it would lead people to do this, and his feelings would be hurt. So one day I said, Jasiri, you know, you talk a lot, right? You know, you ask questions. So you have to kind of manage and watch people's reactions to you, because, and then you have to kind of make decisions and choices on when you need to push pause and say, okay, I can see I've been asking a lot of questions. So let me back off and give them a little bit of space, because I started feeling guilty about the facial reactions I had to my child. I didn't want him feeling like he wasn't important. So I had to teach him to manage his behaviors. Moving forward again, it got to the point where I would have to go to Jasiri's school. This is here in Youngstown. Because now he's in like 6th grade, 7th grade. I had kids come to my house. And just, you know, he had a smart mouth. Because the behaviors change. When you have a child with, let's say, ADHD, it can manifest into something different as they grow older. It can go into a depression. It can go into oppositional defiance. So Siri was that person in class that he would raise his hand and ask the teacher, why are we doing this math? Didn't we do it yesterday? This, you know, he always has something negative, and it was so discouraging. And I want to encourage everyone as parents, if you stick with it, because this young man he's 16 now, and he is like so sweet. Some of those behaviors still come out. Not that he's not hyper anymore, but the opposition has started going down. I try to spend time with him, give him positive energy. I tell him things like, I answer his questions. We have conversations. Yesterday, I had him ride with me to get his basketball hoop. And, you know, he actually bargained. If I go with you, can you take me to McDonald's to get a milkshake? Seriously, I'm about to buy you a hoop. But I said, okay. But when we got there, I had him buy it himself with his own money. And on the way there, I said, well, since I'm buying you the hoop, you gonna buy your milkshake? He was like, yeah. So that worked out. But he asked me every day how my day is going. At first, I think it was more of a experiment for him to see how I would react. So I made, you know, but now he do it every day, because I remember I talked about positive reinforcement. Because he got a good reaction out of me, it increased the likelihood that he'll come back and ask me again. And that's a step. He's not, and the fact that he's willing to pay for his own stuff, he'll say, Mama, can we go to Taco Bell? I'll buy it. It shows me a lot of growth in him, because he used to be so selfish, thinking, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it was really hard balancing Jacoby and Jasiri. I've had people accuse me, like ex-boyfriends, for example, you give Kobe more attention than Siri, or vice versa. Or because Jacoby was always allowed to go spend the night at other people's houses. Jacoby always got praise. He was a social butterfly. Jasiri, and I used to explain, no, it's just they require different types of love and attention. I'm not trying to punish Siri more, but Siri do a lot of stuff. Like, Siri was off the chain. And that's one of the reasons why I used to allow kids to spend the night at my house so much. You know, I would rather keep my kids around me, where even though it cost me furniture and things like that, I knew where my children were. I was in public housing for years while I was in college, trying to get my education. So, Siri had to stay home with me all the time. Jacoby always got attention from me. Jasiri, I'm so glad he in 11th grade now. I'm going to homeschool. Jacoby graduated this past year, so I was wondering how it would be for Siri academically. Oh, it got so bad that this boy was bullied, and the boy that bullied him didn't ride the he rode the school bus home. He never rode the school bus home except on Fridays. So every Friday I had to pick Siri up from school. I would leave PA, because I live in Ohio. We go to school in Ohio. I would leave PA, pick my son up, and take him back to work with me. And he would always say, Mama, can I go home? No, I got to pick you up from school. And I'm telling y'all, that was so hard. You know, as a mother, I wanted to tell him to put a brick in the bushes and a sleep, you know, defend yourself. But I didn't want my son getting any, I don't know. You know, I don't have all the answers. I didn't want my son to get in any trouble. Jasiri grew up in church, so he used to say, Jesus don't, when he was little, Jesus don't want me hitting other people. And I used to say, well, Jesus don't want you getting beat up by kids either. So we're going to have to figure this out. But we had to go to the school. We had to get parents involved. When he went to the 9th grade, we didn't have this problem. 10th grade last year was good as well, but it wasn't because his brother had to defend him. It's just because, but Kobe still said this, that my son eat by himself and all of that. I don't want him, so, you know, with COVID, they're doing a virtual learning this year. So Siri will be home with me, and he'll have 1 more year next year. And I may keep him home. I may keep him home because it's only 12th grade, you know what I mean? 1 more year, and we got through school. But this was not easy. I've had to put a lot of love and time into the kids, not just stuff, but actual implementation of morals, values, the ability to make good choices. And each one of them, like the girls, I'm grateful that I went to school for psychology, because, you know, who knows how I would have been able to handle. And I'm so glad I had a few people over the years that were able to, you know, like my god sister Olivia, she potty trained my girls. I don't know if I could have handled that. I could handle a lot of the other stuff. But a lot of this that I had to do other than that was by myself with my girls, because my mom, bless her heart, and she's so available, like, but when it came to them as babies and toddlers, she was scared. She was like so scared to help, and she didn't want to have to put both of them in the car seats, and they used to wig out. My daughters used to have major meltdowns all the time, and I knew that I had to teach them how to use their words. But I'm at 11 minutes, so I'm gonna end this video and make one more. See y'all in a minute.